Okay, I think... Oh, there's a police officer. Is this up? Is this up? Is this up? Is this up? Okay, yeah, we're up. Alright, we're like... The event's right over there. I just gotta walk inside. And, this... Yeah, I think we're just gonna walk across here. Yeah. Okay, it's up. Yeah, it's right in here in this theater. What's up, stream? We're here. We just gotta get inside. Gang gang. Good, how are you?
So when I was a boy, I thought everyone's dad had a PhD. So I went around saying, "What's your dad's PhD in?" And then someone was like, "Here's what his PhD is in." And I was like, "Oh no, that's wrong." So I figured it out eventually. Kept my head down, got good grades, got a good job in New York City, and then left to try and start a business. How many of you all have started a business or organization or a club or mailing list? Raise your hand. So if you have your hand up, you know a couple things. Number one, it's much harder than anyone ever lets on. And number two, when someone asks you how it's going, what do you say? Great. My business too went great until it failed. My parents told people I was still a lawyer because they're Asian. But I've been bitten by the bug and I said, I want to try this again. I worked at another small company and then another. And then I became the CEO of an education company that grew to become number one in the US and was bought by a bigger company in 2009. 2009 was a very tough time in so much of the country. How many of you were here in Iowa 11 years ago during the financial crisis? How was that time in your community? Rough, it sucked. There was one event where a 14-year-old boy said it was really hard, and I looked at him and I said, how would you remember it? You must have been 4 at the time. And he said, well, my family had to sell our house, so I remember. That's what it was like for so many people in our country, and I thought I had some insight as to why our economy crashed 12 years ago. It was because so many of the wannabe whiz kids I'd gone to college and law school with had gone straight to Wall Street, and some of them had actually come up with mortgage-backed securities and derivatives that had helped crash the economy. So I thought, well, that's the opposite of what you want. That's a train wreck. That's an epic disaster. So what's the opposite of that? And so to me, the opposite of that would be to head to a place like St. Louis or Birmingham or Cleveland and start a business and create jobs. So at this point, I quit my job and started a nonprofit. How many of you all work at a nonprofit right now? How many of you all volunteer at a nonprofit on occasion? On that second one, you should probably just pretend. That one's like, are you a nice person? I am nice. So this is where my wife enters the picture, because imagine your husband coming home and saying, hey, I'm gonna quit my job and start a nonprofit. And then she's like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, well, let me tell you what that means. You're gonna take some of our money, put it in this 501c3 I start, call rich friends and ask them, do you love America? The smart among them say, what does it mean if I say yes to this question? And I say at least $10,000. 12 of them said, I love America for that much. It's like, I thought you did. So we started with a bit of money, and then it grew and grew to the millions, helped create several thousand jobs around the country, to the point where I was honored by the Obama administration multiple times for helping create all of these jobs. So I got to bring my wife to meet the president. My in-laws were very excited about me that week. But I had been to so many parts of the country I'd never been to before, and I had this sinking feeling that things were getting worse, not better, in many of these places. Particularly because of this gulf between regions and communities, where if you flew between St. Louis and San Francisco, or Michigan and Manhattan, you felt like you were crossing dimensions and decades and not just a few time zones. But I was still surprised when Donald Trump became our president in 2016. It's a night you all remember well. How did you all react when he won? Crying, shock, someone said bourbon. That's not your taste in spirits. So, it was a really rough time To me, it was a red flag that tens of millions of our fellow Americans decided to take a bet on the narcissist reality TV star as our president. And though you might have been sad, we all have family members, friends, and neighbors that were excited by Trump's victory. And I know that's the case for you all because Donald Trump won Iowa by almost 10 points. And Iowa is traditionally a very purple swing state. Now, if you were to turn on cable news that night, or really any night since then, why would you think that Donald Trump won? You can go ahead and shout it out. You're very polite, young man, but go ahead and shout something out.
The Russians.
Russia, yes. Let's keep going. What else on the list?
Fear.
Emails, the media, racism, Hillary, Facebook, ignorance, Twitter, social media again, right? All of these things mixed together into some kind of cocktail. I guess I've got alcohol in mind. Is this a bar? But I'm a numbers guy, Cedar Rapids, and I went looking through the numbers for an explanation that I could hang my hat on. And I found it. It's an explanation that you all will find very familiar. We blasted away 4 million manufacturing jobs over the last number of years in this country. And where were those jobs? Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Missouri, and 40,000 right here in Iowa. I have been to those towns. You have too. After the plant closed, the shopping district closed. People left that town, the school shrank, and it has never recovered. That's the same thing I saw play out in Michigan, Ohio, Missouri, Western Pennsylvania, and in your communities. That's how Donald Trump wins Iowa by almost 10 points. And what we did to those manufacturing jobs, we are now doing to retail jobs, call center jobs, fast food jobs, and on through your economy. How many of you have noticed stores closing around where you live here in Cedar Rapids? And why are those stores closing? Amazon, that's right. Amazon's like a giant vacuum sucking up $20 billion in business every single year. How much did Amazon pay in taxes last year? Zero. That is your math, Cedar Rapids. 20 billion out, zero back. 30% of your stores and malls closed forever. Most common job in your economy, in everyone's economy really, is retail clerk. Average retail clerk is a 39-year-old woman making between $8 and $12 an hour. What is her next opportunity when the store closes? You all see the self-serve kiosks in the McDonald's, the CVS, the grocery store, but the changes are more pervasive and subtle. When you all call the customer service line of a big company and you get the bot or software, I'm sure you do the same thing I do, which is you pound 000, say human, representative, human, until you get someone on the line. Raise your hand, that's what you do. Oh yeah, we all do that. That software is terrible. You get the sinking feeling and you're like, please let this company still employ a human that I am now going to get to. No matter what you do. I do the same thing. But in 2 or 3 short years, the software is going to sound like this. Hey Andrew, how's it going? What can I do for you? It'll be fast, seamless, peppy, a little bit sexy perhaps. What is that going to mean for the 2.5 million Americans who work at call centers right now, making between $10 and $14 now? How many of you all know a truck driver here in Iowa? Driving a truck is the most common job in 29 states. 3.5 million truckers. My friends in California are working on trucks that can drive themselves. A robot truck just transported 20 tons of butter from California to Pennsylvania 3 weeks ago with no human intervention. Why did they choose butter for this maiden voyage? I have no idea. But if you Google robot butter truck, you'll see it pops up. And at the end of the route, there's a giant stack of pancakes. Everything I said was true except for the pancakes. So, as the robot trucks come closer and closer to the highways and eventually get on the highways, what is that going to mean for the 3.5 million truckers or the 7 million Americans plus who work at truck stops, motels, and diners that rely upon the truckers getting out and having a meal? How many of you have been to Iowa 80 in Davenport? They've got an exceptional buffet, really good value. It says 5,000 people stop there every day. How many people will stop there if the trucks don't have drivers? A lot less than 5,000. I mean, some of us will stop there, just when we're driving past because it's a good place. But the 5,000 will go to 4 and then 3. We're in the midst of the greatest economic transformation in the history of our country. What experts are calling the 4th Industrial Revolution. When is the last time you heard a politician say 4th Industrial Revolution? Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Probably 3 seconds ago. And I'm barely a politician. So this is what I was unpacking in 2017. Trump wins. I say, oh my gosh, this is not like Russia, racism. I mean, it's all sort of there. But like the main thing is that we blasted away these millions of manufacturing jobs. Now we're going to do the same thing to retail jobs and call center jobs and fast food jobs, eventually truck driving jobs. These are the most common jobs in the U.S. economy. These are the things most people do to feed their families. So I went to our leaders in D.C. and I said, what are we going to do to help our people manage this transition? And what do you think the folks in D.C. said to me when I said, what are we going to do?
Learn to code.
Someone at another event made that Scooby-Doo noise, like, ooh. The 3 responses I got from our leaders in D.C. were these. Number 1, we cannot talk about this. Oh, that's verbatim. Number 2, we should study this further. Number 3, we must educate and retrain all Americans for the jobs in the future. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. But then I'm the numbers guy. I said, hey, I looked at the studies. Do you all want to guess how effective the government-funded retraining programs were for the manufacturing workers who lost their jobs? I'm anchoring you low because it is low. But you know it's low because you know people. You know if you have 1,000 manufacturing workers walk out of a factory, they're not all like, oh, send me to coding school now. I'll be back at it in 6 weeks. Like that's not human nature. And the studies bear that out. The effectiveness rate of government-funded retraining programs for the manufacturing workers were 0 to 15%. They were a total dud. Of those workers who lost their jobs, almost half never worked again. Of that group, half filed for disability. You then saw surges in suicides and drug overdoses in those communities to the point where our life expectancy as a country has declined for the last 3 years in a row. You know the last time America's life expectancy declined for 3 years in a row? Before the Great Depression, it's the Spanish flu of 1918, a global pandemic that killed millions. You have to go back 100 years. It is highly unusual for your life expectancy to ever decline in a developed country. We ordinarily get richer, stronger, healthier. But not in the US of A. We're getting somehow weaker and weaker. So when I said this to the folks in DC, someone said, well, I don't know what to tell you. I guess we'll get better at it. Retraining, that is. And one person said something that brought me here to you all today, Cedar Rapids. He said, Andrew, you're in the wrong town. No one here will do anything about this. Because fundamentally, Washington, D.C. is a town of followers, not leaders. And the only way we will do something about it is if you were to create a wave in other parts of the country and bring that wave crashing down on our heads. And I said, challenge accepted. I will be back in 2 years. That was 2 years ago, Cedar Rapids, and here I am, 5th in the polls and rising to be the Democratic nominee. We raised $16.5 million last quarter in increments of only $30 each. So my fans are almost as cheap as Bernie's. There are a lot of them. No corporate PAC money. This is an uprising of the people to take back our government. And it's one reason why I love being here in Iowa, because you all can do it in a way that no one else can. I did the math. Do you know how many Californians each of you is worth? 1,000 Californians each. So look around this room. What's the fire code in this establishment? I'm going to give a Trumpian estimate. There are 950 people in the room. I'm genuinely curious what the fire code is. I'm going to estimate there are, let's call it 140 people in the room. 140 people here in Iowa is the equivalent of almost 4 football stadiums of Californians. That is the power that's in this room today to actually change the course of history in this country. So the question is, what are you going to do with that power? What we have to do is rewrite the rules of this economy to work for you and your families and your community. How many of y'all are parents like me and Evelyn? Well, a lot of you. That's great. If you're a parent, you've had this feeling that we're leaving our kids a future that is less secure, less stable, and less prosperous than the lives that we have led. That's because that's the truth. If you were born in this country in the 1940s, there's a 93% chance you're going to do better than your parents. That's the American dream that brought my family here. If you're born in the 1990s, you're down to a 50-50 shot, and it's declining fast. That's why Trump won. That's why all the parents feel the way we do, because we're leaving our kids a very, very uncertain, unstable future. We're loading them up with student loan debt if they do decide to go to school. Everything's more expensive, and the opportunities just aren't there. So how the heck do you change that? That's a very big challenge. What we have to do is get the value that's leaving your communities, that's making it so that your kids feel like they have to leave too, and bring it back. How do you all feel about the fact that Amazon, the trillion-dollar tech company, pays less in taxes than everyone in this room? Everyone think, yeah, that's appropriate. And whose fault is it that they are paying zero in taxes? Is it their fault? No, it's our government's fault. You have to be pretty asleep at the switch to let Amazon pay zero. This is what you all have to change. You don't know this. You came here together today to check me out, I guess. But you're going to leave here. Well, thank you. You're going to leave here thinking, wow, we have to rewrite the rules so that Amazon pays its fair share back into our country. And not just Amazon, but Google and Facebook and Apple and Uber and all these giant companies. And then what do we do with all that money? We put it into your hands. How many of you have heard that there's someone running for president who wants to give everyone $1,000 a month? Raise your hand. Nice. How many of you are here because you saw a TV ad? I'm just curious. Oh, well, that's the problem, because we spend a lot of money on those ads. So I know the first time you heard about this $1,000 a month per person, you thought, that's a gimmick, that's too good to be true, that will never happen. I understand. But it's not my idea, and it's not a new idea. Thomas Paine was for this at the founding of the country, called it the citizen's dividend for all Americans. Martin Luther King, whose son I met with in Atlanta, was fighting for this when he was killed in 1968, called it the guaranteed minimum income for all Americans. 1,000 economists, including Milton Friedman, endorsed this in the 60s, and it was so mainstream it passed the U.S. House of Representatives twice under Nixon in 71. Family assistance program, the guaranteed income level to all American families. Came this close. And then 11 years later, one state passed a dividend where now everyone in that state gets between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, no questions asked. And what state is that? Alaska. And how do they pay for it? Oil. And what is the oil of the 21st century? Data, technology, AI, self-driving cars and trucks. A study just came out that said that our data is now worth more than oil. How many of you saw that study? How many of you got your data check in the mail last month? Now you laugh, but if our data is now worth billions and billions of dollars, who's getting all that value? Amazon, Facebook, Google, Apple, and the trillion-dollar tech companies that are going to pay zero back in to the system. Do y'all see the game? That sense you have that we're getting depleted and sucked dry? We are. We're getting depleted and sucked dry. And your job is to actually smarten up our government, get that value back, and put it into your hands. Build a trickle-up economy from our people, our families, and our communities up. Particularly because after we get this money and put it into your hands, how will you spend it? Where will it actually go? How much of it will stay right here in Iowa? Not all of it, most of it. You might get your own Netflix password. But most of it will go right to car repairs you've been putting off, and daycare expenses, and Little League signups, and local nonprofits, and religious organizations. This is the trickle-up economy that we have to make real. We have to make it so we can actually look our kids in the eyes and say that our country loves them, our country values them, and our country is investing in their future. Right now, we're being told how great things are. Saying, hey, GDP record high, corporate profits record high. You know what else are record highs in the United States of America right now? Stress, suicide, depression, financial insecurity, stress levels, substance abuse. If your corporate profits are going up and your life expectancy is going down, which do you listen to? We know which one DC is listening to. DC can't even see people in life expectancy. You can just see the dollars. Washington, D.C. today is the richest city in our country. Think about that. What do they produce?
Nothing. Jack Diddley.
Whatever they're producing, business is good. Donald Trump said he wanted to drain the swamp, got a lot of support. I want to do something a little bit different. I want to distribute the swamp. What do I mean by that? Why do we employ hundreds of thousands of people in the most expensive place in our country? Why wouldn't we take some of those jobs and move them to Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Iowa, places around the country? We'd save billions of dollars immediately, and I would argue that the agencies would make better decisions because they'd actually be living someplace normal instead of just in DC talking to each other. I'm for term limits for the people we send to Washington, DC. Their job should be to get as much done on our behalf and then come home after 12 years max. I can get this passed too, because you know how we do it? We say to I'm gonna be your president a little more than a year, then I'm gonna go to Congress and say, hey, we're gonna enact term limits, but everyone here, you're exempt. Do you think they'll pass it? Oh, they'll pass that the next day. They'll pass this and be like, this is gonna make our government much more accountable. And then after that generation of lawmakers is out, then everyone's term limits and we're good to go. After I'm your president for 8 years doing the people's business, I'm gonna leave that town the next day and you'll never hear from me again. Because that's the way it should be. Our leaders should be heading to DC to do our work and then get the heck out of there. They should not be crouching there for as long as possible, being like, ooh, if I can stay here, that's a big win for me. This is how we can actually get our government working for us again. You put this $1,000 a month in our hands, make us stronger, healthier, mentally healthier, get DC under control, and then actually start measuring our progress by how things are going for us. Because again, you have something like robot trucks, great for GDP and corporate profits, really bad for lots and lots of Americans. I know how wrong the economic indicators are because of my own family's experience. My wife is at home with our 2 boys every day, one of whom is autistic. How much is her work valued at in our economic measures? 0. Evelyn gets a 0, as does every other stay-at-home parent in our country. Every caregiver, person taking care of an ailing loved one, 0. Volunteer, activists trying to make things better in your community, 0. Coaches and mentors trying to strengthen next generation, 0. Artists, 98% of the time, 0. Local journalists, we have put almost 2,000 local newspapers out of business over the last number of months. You know what doesn't work so well if you don't have local news? Democracy. Because how the heck are you going to vote on something if you have no idea what's going on in your community? These are the things, Cedar Rapids, that we claim to value most as a country. Our families, our communities, our democracy. We're allowing them to get zeroed out one by one by one, because we've been collectively brainwashed to think that economic value and human value are the same things. They are not. And the case you have to make to our fellow Americans in 16 days is that we all have intrinsic value as Americans, as citizens, and as human beings ourselves. And if we do that, we can change things very, very quickly. I'm not running for president because I dreamt about being president of the United States. I'm running for president because, like many of you here in this room, I'm a parent and a patriot. I have seen the future that lies ahead for our kids. It is not something I'm willing to accept. They deserve better. We must give them better. You all are among the only people in the country who can make that happen. If you miss this opportunity, Iowa, what happens over the next 4 years? More stores close, the AI gets smarter, the robot trucks actually start hitting your highways. You have been ground zero for this. This is why Trump won your state by almost 10 points. You have seen the mechanization of the jobs in your farms and the consolidation of those family farms into the mega farms. You have seen the over 40,000 manufacturing jobs lost to a combination of automation and trade, mostly automation. You're now seeing it on your main streets Soon you will see it on your highways. It is up to you and you alone to turn the tide for the rest of the country. If you miss this, we are lost for another 4 years. Can we get that back? I don't know. We are not in a situation where time is going to be helpful to us and our families. We have to take this opportunity right now in 16 days. Donald Trump's our president today because he had a very simple message. He said he was going to make America great again. What did Hillary Clinton say in response? America's already great. Remember that, Cedar Rapids? It's been a long 3 years, I know. But it's about to end. Hillary's response did not go over well with many, many Americans because the problems are real. We have to acknowledge the problems and their depth and severity, but then we need real solutions that will actually move the country forward. What were Donald Trump's solutions? Build a wall, turn the clock back, bring the old jobs back. Yeah, and then tweet at 3 a.m. He goes, I think that was on his list. Cedar Rapids, you know better than just about anyone that we have to do the opposite of these things. We have to turn the clock forward. We have to accelerate our economy and society to rise to the real challenges of the 21st century. We have to evolve in the way we see ourselves and our work and our value. I am the ideal candidate for this job because the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. Thank you all very much. Math is an acronym, and what does it stand for? Make America think harder. That's right. That is your job in 16 days. It is your job to move this country, not left, not right, but forward. And I know that is just where you will take us. Thank you all. Looking forward to getting some questions. Thank you, Cedar Rapids. We'll get one question and then selfies. That'll be mine.
I'm sorry?
All right, go ahead and give the mic to whoever.
As a commander-in-chief and head of state, what will you be like versus, well, forget they're just, who will you be?
Oh, thank you for the question, and thank you for not comparing me to. 75% of Americans want nothing to do with war with Iran. So how is it that we found ourselves at the brink of war? It's because Congress gave up its constitutional authority to declare war to the executive branch 19 years ago. As your president, I will say, look, the Constitution clearly says it's for Congress to declare war, so I'm going to tear up the AUMF and return to Congress this power where it belongs. I will then reinvest in our historic partnerships and alliances abroad. It was James Mattis that said that if you invest in diplomats, then you can spend less on ammunition. That is where we should be leading as a country. We should let our historic partners know that we are open for business. We would let Iran know we have zero interest in a war with you that the American people do not want. So let's pursue a diplomatic solution and try and resuscitate the multilateral nuclear agreement. And then I would take the $700 billion plus that we're spending on the military-industrial complex, try and invest it in ways that would actually make us stronger and more secure for years and years to come. What are the true threats of this time? Climate change, AI and cybersecurity. I would argue also the proliferation of military drones is another problem. It is very, very hard to secure a location from something the size of a flying vacuum cleaner. And there are now 30,000 military drones in the hands of 95 different countries. We had an era of drone dominance that is now starting to fade. So if these are the big threats of your time, does another aircraft carrier make you safer and stronger and more secure? Maybe not as much. So we need to invest in things that would actually make us stronger and more resilient in the face of climate change, which I think is the greatest threat. We need to invest in actually securing our infrastructure from foreign threats, and also stay competitive with the Chinese in artificial intelligence. They're in danger of leapfrogging us right now. They're also in danger of surpassing us in 5G, which if we lose to them in, it's going to be a massive national security problem. So these are the ways I would try and channel the military-industrial complex towards things that would actually help us stay safe over the long term, including investing in our infrastructure, which will be an ongoing need. It is a national security priority. I can't believe that Donald Trump didn't even get this right. I was willing to accept Trump Highway and Trump Bridge and Trump everything just to have them built. I thought he would never pass that up, you know what I mean? But it's just left us more to do. So that's how I would lead as Commander-in-Chief. I would focus on the real threats of this era, and I would also let our historic partners and allies know that this is the sort of administration that will let you know before we act and consult with you rather than afterwards. Thank you, Cedar Rapids. Let's make history together. Let's fight this out for the next generation. Hey, guys.
Hey, anybody that wants to stick around for a selfie with Andrew, just make a line outside in the lobby to the right. Leave enough room for people to get past
All right,
you. Just
stream.
hang out for about 10 minutes.
I'm talking like this is a live stream. All right, stream. We are trying to raise money for Andrew Yang through our special secure Act Blue link, theyanggame.com. The campaign has been nice enough to allow us to stream every single event during the next 17 days during their bus tour. But the only way that happens is if we raise them money. We have a goal to raise $100,000 over the next 17 days, and it is all on you. So what we're going to do right now here is if you donate through the yanggame.com donation link, whoever has the highest donation before Andrew's selfie line ends will get a shout out from the next president of the United States. So if you would like to receive a shout out on film when he says your name, all you got to do is go to the yanggame.com donation link. And by the way, stream, we have another town hall for you at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time in Independence, Iowa. And as soon as I can, I'm going to move up closer. But there is a crowd of people here. Excuse me, sir. So again, the link is theyanggame.com or click the secure.actblue.com/donate/yanggame. Every single dollar goes directly to Andrew Yang.
You know, I worked for RLH and I had a guy that I worked with for me St. Louis. And we worked a 13-hour shift. We ran our asses all right. Every day. So we're fueling up at the end of the shift. He walks over to me and says,
Come on,
Right, that's about it.
excuse me. Alright, so if you guys would like a shout out from the next president of the United States, what you gotta do is go to theyanggame.com and donate. Every single dollar goes directly to Andrew Yang. Let's see if we have any donations coming in. Thank you, Teresa, for the $25 donation to Andrew Yang. Thank you, Siobhan, for the $5 donation to Andrew Yang. Thank you, Morgan, for the $10 donation to Andrew Yang. We need those donations. We need to power this man through Iowa. We are going to win Iowa. By the way, guys, you can also help support Andrew Yang by going to yang2020.com/call and yang2020.com/text. Donate through the link being posted right now. And whoever has the highest donation during this stream will get a shout out from the next President of the United States. The current leader is Teresa at $25, but Carol just donated $5. Thank you, Carol. We are looking for someone to donate more than $25, and you will receive a shout out on camera from the next President of the United States. The campaign, as I said, has been nice enough to allow us to stream their entire bus tour and get up-close access to every event. But to make it worthwhile for them, we have to show them our value. Thank you, Brian, for the $200 donation to Andrew Yang through the yanggame.com donation link. Hello, Fred the Felon. Thank you for tuning in. The current donation leader is Brian at $200. The current donation leader. Do these donations count towards the Dave Chappelle raffle? No, all these donations count directly to this man right here, Andrew Yang. Thank you, Alex, for the $125 donation to Andrew Yang through the yanggame.com donation link. But unfortunately, Alex, Brian is the current leader at $200. And it looks like they're going to flip around. I wonder if I can go back there. Because right now I'm stuck back here. Let me see. Excuse me. Let's see what it looks like back here, stream. We are breaking the rules. We are breaking the rules.
Here, why don't you pop out before
How's it going?
Good.
Who's got the camera?
I got you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
One, 2, 3. He will be back. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. That's me.
But you're going to get the same camera. That's right. Yeah,
Thank you, Ahmed. Or is it Ahmed or Ahmed for the $5 donation to Andrew Yang? Thank you, Gary, for the $50 donation to Andrew Yang. Currently, our donation leader for the shout out is Brian at $200. Can anyone top Brian? Just the other. Ooh.
Oh my goodness. All right, 1, 2, 3. Got it. I think that one was a looking. Thank you all so
Thank you, Trong, for the $30 donation to Andrew Yang through the yanggame.com donation link. There are currently 785 of you watching, and if all of you donated just $1 right now, we would collectively raise $795, because now it's $795. Yes, Brandon, Andrew just finished speaking, but we have another town hall at 6 p.m. in Independence, Iowa. Currently, our donation leader to get a shout out on camera from the next President of the United States, he will say your name. This will be a moment that you will cherish for the rest of your life. Is $200 from Brian.
One more.
Thank you, Jamie, for the $125 donation to Andrew Yang through the yanggame.com donation link. I'm going to move somewhere where I'm not in the way. No, I'm in your way. Thank you, Lee, for the $50 donation to Andrew Yang through the yanggame.com donation link. Thank you, Jason, for the $5 donation to Andrew Yang through the yanggame.com donation link. Whoever has the highest donation in the by the end of this selfie line is going to get a shout out from the next president of the United States. Hey, Ashley Choi, I recognize your name from Twitter, I believe. The vibe of the room was good. Thank you, Alex, for the $76 donation to Andrew Yang through the yanggame.com donation link. But again, Brian is our current donation leader. We actually had someone the other day drop $2,800 through the yanggame.com donation link. And Andrew was so excited that he gave him a shout out and a signed book.
Yeah, actually, I do talk to you. Thank you.
Yes. Came in from Washington and has been knocking on
Dude,
doors.
I was talking to him in the live. I signed up volunteer as well. Been a long time fan, so that was really awesome. I don't like openly talk about it too much, but thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's pretty exciting, right?
Thank you, Willie, for the $5 donation to Andrew Yang through the yanggame.com donation link. Is my mom in the chat? Thank you, Loved1234, for donating. As soon as your email comes in, I will see it. Guys, this man right here needs your donations to power him through. We are going to hit the 15% threshold in Iowa, but it only happens if you guys step up to the plate and go to yang2020.com/call, yang2020.com/text. Go to yangweek.org and sign up to canvass here in Iowa and knock on doors for Andrew Yang. And of course, donate to Andrew Yang through the yanggame.com donation link. Whoever has the highest donation by the end of this selfie line is going to get a shout out from the next president of the United States. And the current leader is Brian at $200. This is like an auction. Is anyone going to top Brian at $200?
One, two, three.
Thank you, Duong. I did not say that right, for the $100 donation to Andrew Yang. Excuse me, ma'am. Would you like a white or blue bumper sticker?
Thank you very much.
Would you like a white or blue? Awesome. Would you like one? White or blue? Blue. Have a good one. Thanks for coming out. Can anyone top Brian at $200? Brian is the current donation leader at $200 through the yanggame.com donation link.
Her mom really wants to have you hold her in the photo. Can you do that? Benny, this is Mr. James. We'll take a picture. Ready?
Here we go. One, two, three. Get this way, cutie girl. There you go.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for coming. I want to tell you that her mom is excuse me, sir. She was really touched by
Donate right now through the yanggame.com donation link. And whoever has the highest donation in the next, by the end of this selfie line, is going to get a shout out from this guy, Andrew Yang, the next president of the United States. The current leader is $200. Which one of you will become the new donation leader? We are looking for a $201 donation to Andrew Yang, and you will get a shout out on camera. Who is going to step up to the plate? That is the question.
Can we get
This is me. I was a national.
I was on board.
Pleasure to meet you.
I still get the text to prove it.
White or blue?
Thank you. Blue, please.
Blue. Have a good night. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Hello. You want one? White one? White? There you go.
That's my wife's favorite t-shirt.
Oh wait, these are blue and white.
I gotta say, I love it because it.
Yeah, if you donate twice, it consolidates. If you add to your first donation, you become the new donation leader. White or blue, sir? Blue. There you go. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming out.
Fantastic.
My daughter Stella, you made a video for her in Washington. She gave me this note. You made a thank you note. She loved her. She was an answer. She's totally yanked. All right, let's get sure, Scott. This is my second big hat. I got my hat set. Thank you. Yeah. Like it? No, I'm cutting out too.
Yes, that's how we win. Thank you, Scott. Yes. Hello. Hi, man. How are you? If you guys want to. Yeah, we gotta make it work for them.
That's right.
Did you get a card? I've got a silver trophy.
Hey, Scott, you can have mine and Kara's wedding.
It's okay. I do it.
We've been to see you a couple times since. Oh, congratulations.
Nice.
Hi, ma'am.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Change the incentives. Change the outfit, right? The incentives right now are all
White or blue, ma'am? Blue. I'll take white one. White. Thanks for coming out. Alright, update on the donations. Let's check.
Yes.
Thank you, David, for the $5 donation to Andrew Yang through the yanggame.com donation link. Thank you, Susie, for the $10 donation to Andrew Yang through the yanggame.com donation link. Thank you, Roderick. White or blue, sir?
I already have it.
Okay. Awesome. Three steps ahead of us. Yeah.
I appreciate you guys working with
No problem, man. Yep. We're going to be doing them for the next 17 days. So. All in.
Thanks.
Take care. White or blue, ma'am? White.
yeah, there we go.
This is our generation.
I meant later.
It's going to be relatively tight.
You look great.
Okay, should I do that now?
The current leader for the donation from Andrew Yang.
Yeah, that's it. No, the only thing I need is my backpack. As long as I can grab the camera picture.
White or blue, man?
Actually,
Yeah, we'll also have need it for the town.
yeah, I mean, I'm just recording here. Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it'll be
That's great. Yeah.
Her daughter's in mine. Her daughter's in mine. She'll wait.
Okay.
All the weapons and forges that are everywhere.
If you're gonna need it, stop.
Guys, my internet's bad, so unfortunately I don't think I can see your donation emails right now. Andrew Yang through the yanggame.com donation link. Oops, did the stream go down? That's not good.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's my daughter Madison. She's beautiful.
Okay, so she wants to, yeah, we'll get
Hey, we gotta move, guys. We gotta move. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Nothing else.
you should be just.
It's so cool outside.
Thank you.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
You're next up.
One more.
Ready? You want me to do both?
Hey, thanks, guys.
Okay, we'll get both.
Yes, I did. I got it. Thank you. No, I mean, one just for you.
White or blue, ma'am? For you? The compass card?
Yeah.
One of the staff members.
I am gonna double fist in these cameras. You ready?
Would you like one as well? Blue. Thanks for coming out.
All right.
Well, I'm so glad because you've probably seen us all.
Well, and she's a Republican from Florida, so.
Yeah, guys, the next event is in an hour and a half, and we will be there live.
Oh, thank you so much. We have a lot of people in Florida.
White or blue, ma'am? Blue. Thanks for coming out. Have a great night.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
Yes. See me all over the place.
Which one? The Andrew Yang for president ones. You could give those away. Just one. Yeah, one at a time.
Yeah, we can make it happen. Yes. Yes. All right.
Check with these?
Yes. We gotta turn around share generation. Let's clean it up.
Yes.
White or blue? Blue. Thank you. No problem. Of course.
Have a film, guys.
Here, take my phone.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, brother.
Hey, Darth Clive, can you spam the donation link? Because I can't right now, because my phone is, my second phone is like bad right now.
Did you want one by yourself?
Get out.
White or blue?
I'll take red.
Someone has a phone.
White or blue?
All right, 1, 2, 3. One more. You got it. Thank you.
Yeah, what do you got?
So you actually swayed me when I saw it about taxes and but the way they're not paying taxes.
Thank you, Kenny, for the $1 donation to Andrew Yang through the yanggame.com donation link.
What you do is you tax them at like point of
The current donation leader is still Brian at $200. Whoever donates $201, you can ruin Brian's day and become the new leader for the Andrew Yang shout-out. Do you want the next president of the United States to give you a shout-out on camera? Then all you gotta do is donate through the THE Yang, Y-A-N-G, game.com. White or blue? White, and for you? Blue. No problem. Have a good night.
I'm intrigued.
White or blue, ma'am?
I'm not going to do it today, but I'm intrigued.
Thank you.
This is just
1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Someone donated more than Adam. Unfortunately, my second phone, the emails are really bad right now. Bradley. Oh, white or blue?
What's that?
White or blue? Or both, if you'd like.
All right. Thank you very much.
The new donation leader is now Bradley at $201. Thank you, Bradley, for the $200 donation. White or blue?
I take
Blue.
Thank you very much.
Bradley is the new donation leader for the shoutout at $201. Keep donating through the yanggame.com donation referral link. Thank you, Chris, for the $5 donation to Andrew Yang. Thank you, Richard, for the $25 donation to Andrew Yang. Thank you, Anthony, for the $1 donation to Andrew Yang. Yeah, I'm having trouble seeing because bad internet. I need the link spam. Bradley is now the new donation leader. But you can become the new donation leader. All you got to do is donate right now to this guy right here. $202, and you will become. Thank you so much, Pivot Guy 401. That's the most you've ever donated. We really appreciate you taking your hard-earned money and putting it towards trying to create a brighter future.
Yeah, it was actually the lady. She's like, I literally just said it right there. I was like, start to fade though.
Pass it up. Well, I don't know if I would want one to come up behind us. I mean, I have to do that, so I don't mind.
All right, guys, selfie line's about to end, so it looks like Bradley's gonna take it. Guys, the selfie line is about to end. If you can get your donation in right now, you will become the new donation leader. We're looking for $202 or more, hopefully more.
We got the text from everything.
Yeah, climate change is. I know.
Thank you, Brandon, for the $1.18 donation. Andrew Yang.
Like security threat is climate change. I agree.
We gotta get one
Can I
more
get on says
photo,
so?
guys.
Says so.
This is the only
Would you like a bumper sticker?
Hey, thanks for coming.
No problem.
Appreciate you having it.
Car, we haven't.
Okay. Totally understand. Thanks for coming out. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the $50 donation. And it looks like Bradley is going to take home the prize.
Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you.
You're so welcome, sir. Thanks for hosting us.
What is my first name?
Jamie.
This is
Jamie, am I?
nice.
Yeah, it is. Love this theater. It's
We
wonderful.
like it.
Okay, so,
I would come here.
when you're president, come back and do the show, okay?
Yeah, it'd be nice. My wife will
I'm
do
from
it.
Atlanta.
There you go.
Oh, so
Thank you guys so much.
You love
Thank
this
you.
nice
Hey,
place,
thanks.
don't
It's
you?
very
Have a good trip.
Very different.
Andrew, would you be able to give a shout out to Bradley for being the highest donor during the stream?
Sure thing. Hey, Bradley, thank you. You're here in Iowa with us in spirit because you're helping move the campaign forward and thus the country. So thank you, Bradley.
Appreciate it.
Yang Stream
And Zach and Matt Show.
and the Second Match Show.
Woo!
Can we get one more picture?
This is the second time we met you. About a year ago.
This one's your actual hat, right?
The one I used to collect. Yeah, so that's my actual.
I'm putting them all.
Thank you, Yee, for the $5 donation to Andrew Yang. All right, stream. So that is the end of this event, and the next event starts at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you guys would like to see that event, just tune back in on either yangstream.com or the Zach and Matt Show stream at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Mountain Time, 4 p.m. How many people were there? Probably about, Andrew said 140. So anyways, I gotta go. Andrew's leaving, so that means I gotta leave. See ya, stream.